Hello everyone. I know I said my last video was going to be a food review potentially, change in plans. Um, yeah, the night before, I gave an update yesterday about how good I was feeling at the day after the biopsy. That only lasted a day. Um, the the night of the biopsy, I slept really good, and that's because I went 24 hours without any sleep. So I was just exhausted. But typically, one of the symptoms, and I don't think I've talked about this, is sleeping at nighttime. Because of that dull back pain that you get, it's just impossible to get comfort. And the ibuprofen and the Tylenol don't really, they manage it enough to be comfortable in the daytime, but definitely not at night. Um, so today I found out some new news. Apparently, the when I thought I was dealing with an oncologist, and I was given kudos because it only took a week to hear from them, or about 7 days. Apparently, that wasn't my oncologist that I'm going to be assigned to. I got a call this morning from the QE2 advising me that I have an appointment on June 24th or 26th. I wrote it down inside to speak to the oncologist that's been assigned to me. So, just to recap the dates here, I was told I had cancer, liver cancer, May 19th. A week later, I heard back. I think it was May 28th, so a little bit more than a week. Um, uh, Almost 10 days, so 9 days. I heard from the oncologist who I thought was going to be assigned to me, and I might have mentioned in the update that I was asking questions, but they had said, you can ask the surgeon, you can ask the surgeon. So that makes sense now because that person wasn't the oncologist, he was a surgeon. I was a little bit curious why he couldn't answer the questions and was asking me to ask another surgeon. But anyway, so all along I thought, okay, this is the oncology team, and I thought they would wait to meet with me after the biopsy results come in. So again, this morning I get a call saying this is going to be your oncologist, and we need you to come to the Dixon Center on this date and start the process, I guess. This will be well over a month since the diagnosis that I've had any contact that could help me with any of the medications or anything that I needed. So when I was speaking to the receptionist that called me about the appointment today, I told her about, the problems I was having and not being able to get a peaceful night's sleep at all. I would sleep for about an hour, wake up for about 3 hours, fall asleep for an hour, wake up for about 3 hours, and that would go on throughout the daytime. Um, with the exception of Tuesday night after the biopsy, but I accredit that to I didn't I went 24 hours without any sleep at all, no napping. So what I really need is something to manage the pain that's not going to go through the liver. And I understood from uh, the pharmacist that there's nothing over the counter that they can prescribe other than something that's going to interact with the liver or the kidneys. So my next step was, obviously my family doctor can't help me with that because she's not a cancer doctor, as great as she is. So when I spoke to the receptionist today about my appointment, I was telling her again about the symptoms that I was having, the lack of sleep and the pain. And she said she can't answer those, but she will get a nurse from the cancer treatment center that can call me back and go over that with me. So she did call me back, I would say within a half an hour. So again, kudos to everybody that I've been dealing with. Once I get in contact with the right person, it's been great, and the service has been great, and they've been very accommodating and very nice. Um, the nurse called me today. I explained to her, and she recommended for the pain a low dosage of Dilaudid. So I would need to call my family doctor and tell her I was talking to the nurse, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to need this dosage. And then for the sleep, I forget the name of the drug. It starts with a V, but she said that will help with the sleep. So I relayed that to my family doctor. Both of those prescriptions were sent in urgently to the pharmacy, my local pharmacy, and they're actually ready for pickup. So I'm going to get my daughter to go do it for me. But my mind is just boggled. And I want to talk a little bit about the politics of this. Again, the only reason for me starting this update, I would rather do something else than put my personal stuff all out there, right? I thought it would be a living example, a living testament of what people are going through with our healthcare system. Premier Houston, when Stephen McNeil said he wasn't going to run again, so we had an election in 2021, and Premier Houston promised, he wasn't a premier then, he was an MLA, member of the Legislative Assembly, promised, sat in the back of ambulances, went all over the place. Everything was healthcare. Healthcare was going to be the priority. But it turns out it didn't end up being that way, because we used to have about 80, 90,000 people without a family doctor. Now that number is well over 100,000. What the problem is that every politician that comes in here blames the other politician before him or the other party before them. It was the Conservatives. No, it was the Liberals. No, it was the NDP. The reality is everybody's to blame. I've said this before. And if you really want to go and say, well, who had the most time in office since, let's say, 1980? Because this stuff didn't just happen overnight. The Conservatives have been in power more. So if anybody wants to take the lion's share of the blame, it's Mr. Houston's party. And I'm not aligned with any party. I'm not a member of the Liberal Party. I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. I'm not a member of the NDP. I would be, if I was in the States, I would be an independent. And I'm telling you, every politician needs to listen and fix the problem. I think Stephen McNeil was on the right track. He appointed a board, nonpartisan medical people, medical professionals, that were going to analyze all the situation, dig deep, and figure out what we need to do to fix the problem. Where every time, including what Houston is doing now, is just throwing money at the problem. I'm going to hire a bunch of nurses. I'm going to hire a bunch of doctors. I'm going to hire a bunch of this. There's some systemic things that need to be fixed within our healthcare system that haven't been addressed. And what's happening to me is a perfect example of it. May 19th, I'm told I had cancer, and I didn't get anybody from the oncology team that I'm going to be assigned to reaching out to me, asking me, what are your problems? What are you having now? What symptoms can we help you deal with? Nobody. The way that I think this should have worked is when you're diagnosed with a terminal disease that you're going to die from, or could, it should go to the cancer team. Doesn't have to be a doctor, but somebody should call within 24 hours and say, hello, sorry to hear about this. We're gonna look into this. Is there anything that you need right now? And if so, I will have a nurse or a doctor call you. And then I will leave you this contact number. So I have all of that now because the nurse was gracious enough. They called me today to give me her cell phone number, business phone number, that I could call her back if I had any questions prior to my meeting with my oncologist on the 24th or 26th. So, Mr. Houston, I hope you're paying attention. I hope you see this. People, anybody watching this that lives in Nova Scotia or lives in Canada, and your province is dealing with the same healthcare issues that we are here, share the video, get this out, get it around. And we're the voters. We should hold the politicians accountable. And I'm not saying neither one has a good plan. I don't think any of them do. But do you know what what Tim Houston did, the first thing when he got in, it didn't even take a quarter of the year. Within a couple months, he fired the board that his predecessor had put in place, and then hired a bunch of uh, people that were loyal to the Conservative Party. This is not about effing politics. It's not about politics. It's about the most fundamental things that people need to be able to live and breathe and have health care. And the other part that I found out today from talking to the nurses that asked me if I had a medical plan. I said, I don't. I'm not 65 yet. So, so I'm sorry, that's just my granddaughter outside playing. So what they should have is that if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, every medication should be paid for by the government. If we have, I can go into a doctor, break my leg, get a cast on, get it fixed. No cost to that. But if you need a prescription, you have to pay for that prescription. So I don't know what I'm going to do from a money perspective. I have to take out more loans. Not a good thing to doing just before you may die. To be able to afford the treatment that I'm going to be needing. So the nurse that I spoke to did say she will get me in touch with one of the advocates of pharmacare to see about getting me on the government medical plan so that the cost won't be that overbearing for me. So again, this is the whole purpose of this, is to highlight what is wrong, what's broken in our system. And from what's going on with me, something is clearly broken. For me not to have to wait over a month to find out what medication I can take to make me feel better and make me get a good night's sleep. So that's what the update is about. The good news is I called my family doctor today. She's got the prescription sent to the pharmacy and it's ready for pickup. So I'm hoping that tonight I'm going to have a really good night's sleep and feel better. And I hope that I don't have to put another video like this up now that I have a contact and information, somebody to contact to get information about what I need if something else comes up. But yeah, it's just horrible experience so far. Again, no doctor or nurse or anybody that I've dealt with has been unprofessional, uncooperative. They've all been great, from my family doctor down to the staff at the QEII, have all been phenomenal. It's just the lack of organization and leadership and focus. There's some customer service things that they need to put in place and organizational things in order to fix this. Just so you know, that's what I did back in the 80s, early 90s. I used to be an accountant, worked at a big electrical wholesaler, say the name Graybar, and I looked after the accounting in the Canadian Atlantic Provinces area. And one of the things that I did and specialized in was process and procedure. I went through the ISO 9001. Don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but went through that. I developed procedures, processes there. I brought that with me when I went to the new job that I went to afterwards, that I was with for close to 30 years, and who tossed me aside like I was garbage, even though I was producing the best records. My team and myself had the highest scores. I've said this before, and I'll share with you, again, I'm not going to name the name of the company, but for somebody that's done so much for a company to just cast me aside, I've reached out to them 6 months after I was let go. They listened to me, never responded to me since. These are the local leadership. I then went to the executive on the board corporately that manage it worldwide that I happen to have met before and have actually demoed a product that I was working on and developing, and thought that, you know, they should hear the news and see if they could do something for me. At that time, I was asking them to come back, let me do what I'm good at doing. Then they ghosted me and stopped responding to me. I wrote them again when I got the diagnosis and said, look, I'd be appreciative of any help. I'm not sure if you've done any more research on what has happened to me, but it truly has. I never wanted to sue them because I love that company, but I can tell you now, I don't, because they're all hypocrites, is what they are. Yeah, the associates, most important thing, that's in our values. Apparently not. It depends on whether there's a leader that has an ego that's afraid of having somebody on his team that used to be a peer and is smarter than them when it comes to the technology that we're using, the processes, the procedures, and is intimidated by that. That's not the quality of a good leader. So again, I mentioned this in one of my updates before. If anybody ever asked me if that was a great company to work for, I'd say no. I'm not going to go up publicly on Glassdoor or anything like that. I was just hopeful that they would do the right thing for me instead of sending me in financial ruin, which is what they've done. So a little bit of a rant update for the government problems and then the problems from my work that are complicating this for me to worse than anything can be. And to not even have the courtesy to write back and say, look, I'm so sorry this is happening to you, but we can't, blah, blah, blah. I just think it's horrible. And they're definitely not the people that I thought that they were. So my rant is better. I feel better. Again, from the government side of this, if anybody happens to be in the government, you're listening to this, watching this, pass the message on for Canadians that are having the same problems in their province. Share this, get this out so that we can start demanding the politicians stop just throwing money at a problem, get the right people in there to fix it, and let's get this fixed. Um, anyway, thanks for listening to me. I'm hopeful this new medication that I'm going to be getting is going to help, and I'm going to feel comfortable and be able to function during the daytime, which I haven't been able to except for yesterday. And once I am, I think what I'll do first is a recipe. I do have a Rappy pie in the freezer that I got at Sobeys that I want to do a review for. So I may do that this weekend. And if you haven't heard of Rappy pie, you're in for a treat. So that takes us to the end, folks. Uh, every, hopefully this is the end of the rants now that I've gotten in touch with the real oncology team. The other one was a pseudo oncology team, apparently not the real one. And now I've got somebody that's going to listen to me and be able to guide me in the right direction for treatment or medication that I need to make me comfortable as I go through this. So again, sorry for the rant. I really appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this video and all of your supportive comments as usual. Thanks again, Jamie, signing off.